Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Wednesday. Hump Day. Glad to have you aboard.
Yes, and what a week it has been. I don't know if you saw the moon when you came in this morning, Bill, but it was big and beautiful.
Yeah, boy. We have the first of the two super moons this month. We have a blue moon. There's going to be another full one on the 31st.
Yes.
That rarely happens when you have two full moons in a single month.
Yes, but make sure to enjoy that because there's not a whole lot of good news that we have for you today.
Yeah, well, there are a few things, but and we'll get to them. Especially, so we've got if there's a big traffic accident or something, a plane crash or something, you can bet that there's going to be another indictment against Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, or if there's news that comes out about Biden, Jack Smith, who has some linkage that I'm a little concerned about as to why he was picked to be the prosecutor on this, and also the judge in this case that was chosen is the only one to sentence J6 prisoners to longer terms than the suggested terms.
Yeah. And
that's a huge problem.
Right. And also Smith has one of the cases that he had was overturned by the extreme court 9-0. When was the last time you can remember a unanimous verdict on the Supreme Court?
It's been a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Jack Smith, one of the most horrible human beings, had a lot to say about these new charges that he's decided to bring against Donald Trump.
Let's hear what the jackass had to say.
Good evening. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail. I encourage everyone to read it in full. The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021, was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. The men and women of law enforcement who defended the U.S. Capitol on January 6th are heroes. They are patriots and they are the very best of us. They did not just defend a building or the people sheltering in it. They put their lives on the line to defend who we are as a country and as a people. They defended the very institutions and principles that define the United States. Since the attack on our Capitol, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day. This case is brought consistent with that commitment, and our investigation of other individuals continues. In this case, my office will seek a speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens. In the meantime, I must emphasize that the indictment is only an allegation and that the defendant must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, well, also, it's like, don't believe your lying eyes because we've seen all the footage. Why do you think Tucker was fired so quickly after he released the footage of January 6th and watching police officers, Capitol police officers, escorting people around the Capitol and then accusing them of breaking in and being tyrants?
Yeah, and especially the guy with the Viking helmet. Getting the escort into all of these rooms and everything, and he's been very respectful. All these people being very respectful going in. They weren't spray painting statues. They weren't setting fire to anything. They were saying, please be respectful of all of these items and all the iconic statues that are there. Some of which have been removed by Nancy Pelosi and others like Thomas Jefferson's. But nevertheless, that video that Tucker showed that they're completely ignoring in the rest of the media debunks everything that they talked about for the last 2.5 years. Everything. And by the way, there was one person who was murdered in cold blood by a Capitol Police officer, and he's had his charges exonerated.
Yep, and that's Ashley Babbitt.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have Steve Stanton Sr. with us this morning, and he says, I saw countless Democrats from Congress take to the microphone and cameras right after the Trump indictments yesterday on Twitter. Just one Republican, Matt Gaetz. That should tell you everything you need to know about the people that represent us up in Washington, D.C. Kevin McCarthy has got to go, is what Steve Stanton says. And Lizzie Warren says Republicans need to stand up and go after the real crimes committed by various Biden family members.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, one of the retired FBI assistant director, Chris Weikert, was on with Fox and Friends First this morning, and he said he read through this 42-page indictment. He said, "This is so thin." Mm-hmm. This is so ridiculous. Mm-hmm. He can't believe it was even brought forward. He said this is almost kindergarten stuff. And he says he's never in his 40 years plus of law enforcement, from the FBI and also in private practice, that he has ever seen anything like this. That they are just making up stuff. Jonathan Turley, one of the most distinguished constitutional law professors in this country, has said that they have just stretched these things to the bare minimum. You know, the last time one of these charges was brought against a president, when the law was in 1866.
Well, they're trying to get him for treasonous acts.
Yeah.
I mean, for freedom of speech. He has a First Amendment right to say whatever the heck he wants.
Exactly. And he has. And when was the last time Democrats didn't question an election?
Only when they're winning them.
Yeah, when they didn't win.
Only when they win do they not question it.
Yeah, they have tried to go against every and objected to every presidential election that has been won by a Republican since at least Richard Nixon.
Yeah, and a voice that we are really missing right now, and I know that you definitely bring this up a lot, is Rush. And he said that they were going to go after him with everything that they had in one of his very last shows.
Him being Donald Trump.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know they desperately want Trump gone, and I know that they desperately want it codified, that Trump cannot run again, because make no mistake, they remain scared to death of you, and they remain scared to death of Trump. Trump, 75 million, 80 million votes. And I'm going to tell you, you're not going anywhere. Even if Trump does, you're not. They can't separate you from Trump. And more importantly, they can't separate you from the ideas. They can't separate you from MAGA. They can't separate you from Make America Great Again, which I think remains one of our big campaign strengths going forward. They believe that they can destroy this bond that exists between you and Trump if they somehow make Trump look bad, make Trump look like a reprobate, embarrass you about Trump. They can't do it because you came before Trump.
Could we hit a seance and bring this guy back? Been about 2.5 years since we lost our beloved Rush.
It seems like forever ago. It seems like so long ago. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to believe.
So much water under the bridge and all the things that have happened since his passing. But he had the most amazing focus and insight. I never ceased to be amazed and stunned at some. In fact, some of the things he'd say was that, Rush, that's stretching it a little bit, isn't it? And sure enough, within days or weeks, that would come to pass. And he would be talking about issues for months. And all of a sudden, NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokenjaw and the gang would come along and say, we've got this exclusive. We've just found out about so-and-so and so-and-so, and we've had this, and our investigators have this. And, gee, Tom, have you been listening to the radio? Because Rush has been talking about that for the last 4 months.
Well, and I think that the thing that Rush brought up that really resonated with me is the same thing that Donald Trump also said. Mm-hmm. This isn't about me. This is about you. And this is about them trying to shut down all of the American people that believe in freedom, that believe in patriotism, and that love this country. And we can't allow it. Steve Stanton says we're headed to a one-party rule. They are so demonizing the whole Republican Party. Ditto head here. So I just think we really need to start I'm not really sure what we need to do, but we need to organize in a way that we've never organized. I'm very disappointed in our Republican government here in Georgia. They're allowing stuff to happen here that shouldn't be allowed to happen. They're going after our electors here. There's rumors that we're going to see some people arrested in the next couple of weeks. It's very dangerous. It's happening right here in Georgia, and we live under a Republican government. So what is Brian Kemp and everyone doing to help protect these people and to also go after what's going on in Washington, D.C.? This should not be allowed. I mean, the states need to start fighting back because they should have all the power. The federal government is way out of control.
It is indeed. And what's so disappointing is most of the presidential candidates from the Republican side, with the exception of Vivek Ramaswamy and Tim Scott, are railing against, or actually sound like they are on Jack Smith's side.
Yeah, well, and before we get to that, something that I saw back from 1998 was Roseanne Barr, who she's known as being a little crazy, but she's hilarious. And she had Donald Trump and I can't think of his name, Michael Moore on the show, which I was shocked to see those two together. But this was in 1998. And one of the things that she said to Trump just really shocked me.
You know that whole way of thinking gets all bogged down too, and it doesn't go anywhere either.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, witness the whole Soviet Union.
Sure. Well,
it doesn't go anywhere. I'm not calling you a communist.
No.
But that socialist stuff, it doesn't go anywhere. It's just a huge mess like everything else.
Here's the ironic thing is that the socialist Soviet thing is what now conservatives in this country like. They want to eliminate the competition. They want to merge and buy out the competition so that they're the only company, right? So we have only like 5 media.
I was thinking that. Is that true, Donald? I was thinking that the rich people are trying to make us communists.
They're trying to be like the old Soviet Union. How about this? When the Republicans voted for impeachment, they voted 227 to 0. Not one dissent, like the old Politburo in the Soviet. Everyone agrees, right? You know, it's like that's how the Republicans are in Congress. There's like they're like the old commies.
Donald,
it's really
you cannot let other rich people turn this into a communist country.
Yes.
Well, I don't think we have too much of a problem, but it certainly is an interesting viewpoint. This is one I have not heard before.
I hadn't heard it either, but I like it.
So
yeah, Michael Moore, about 100 pounds lighter there. Nevertheless, he came to fame by doing something that at first he had these, but he was railing against corporate America, kind of dictating things, and he was going after the CEO of General Motors, and he had a documentary out called Roger and Me, and it was Roger was the CEO of General Motors, and that's how he came to fame.
Well, I thought he did the McDonald's one where he ate McDonald's every day.
Yeah, I don't know, but it looked like he hadn't missed many meals since. Yeah, that's for darn sure. Well, I don't think you've seen his feet in 30 years.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of those out there. Yeah, boy. Turns out.
Yeah, like Governor Pritzker.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's done a bang-up job.
Boy, he is really. In fact, you can do all the banging up you want to in Chicago and in Illinois now, because especially when we're going to get illegal aliens on the police force.
Arresting American citizens. Yes, that's rich.
That'd be great.
But when we get back, we'll be talking more about Trump's indictment and also some of the candidates that are supporting him. Mm-hmm.
RK Shows has a reputation for bringing you the highest quality gun shows and hunting supply events. With over 25 years of excellence in the making, RK Shows is continually increasing in size and quality. Today, the shows have become one of the largest gun and knife shows in the U.S.
I turn 50 years old next week, and I've been coming to gun shows up here since I was 17. And I've seen over the years how they've just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now there seems to be a lot more for everybody.
RK shows aren't just about a gun show. They're a celebration of law-abiding citizens and their freedom. It's a family tradition. It's a social event. It's a learning experience. At RK shows, you will find knives of all kinds and brands, such as Case, Cold Steel, Benchmade, Randall, and Spyderco. Starting from $1 to your most sought-after custom collectible knives and swords. Bring your own dull blade to be professionally sharpened. Many collector experts and their items are also bought, sold, and traded at the shows. Militaria collectibles from pre-Civil War to the present. Gold, silver, rare and modern coins, antique weapons, even cowboy collectibles. Each and every show has something different, from hunting and survival items to clothing and jewelry. But the one thing that you are promised to see is guns. Lots of guns. You'll see hundreds of vendors buying, selling, and trading rifles, shotguns, handguns, tactical weapons, and yes, background checks are required. Gun cases, gun parts, laser sights, and scopes. And
She trains at 6 a.m. every morning. She spent years working to shave off seconds. She's the captain of her school's team. He's just a mid-pack finisher. But not today. Unfortunately, this competition was over before it even began.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Burrell.
Happy Wednesday, Hump Day. Glad to have you aboard on the second day of August.
Yes, and before the break, we saw a clip of Roseanne, which she was actually being she was on a show about a week ago, and she was talking about how she didn't think there was going to be an election. And, some of the people on the show were like, Roseanne, that's a little far, But one of the things that someone brought up with all of this coming at Trump is that this may make a way for them to get him off the ballot. And at that point, are we really having a free and fair election when they take away the front runner from the Republican Party and we don't get to choose our candidate based off of our primary?
Exactly.
So, something to think about there, because I do think that, especially in our state, which we'll cover tomorrow, the Board of Elections meeting that happened yesterday, a lot of people upset about our elections here, and the fact that Brian Kemp has not stepped up, has not, said anything about what they're doing to Trump, although that they have their differences and that, they've had their own pissing match. I just think that as Republicans, it could be a uniting thing for Brian Kemp to step up and say something, and he's not, which I have a hard time with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because we need to get our act together, circle the wagons. And by the way, there was a packed meeting yesterday, 9:00 on a Tuesday morning, and that's
standing
when they try
only.
and that's when they were trying to get people not to stand, so to keep them out.
Yep.
But this goes to show you how upset people are, because usually they have those meetings very safely. At 9:00 on a Tuesday morning, usually
no one's
you're not
going
to get now. Yeah, that's right. I mean, they don't even want to show up.
Exactly,
So,
especially not in Atlanta. That traffic.
oh, geez, bumper to bumper at 80 miles an hour. No, thank you.
Yeah, but we'll be covering that tomorrow. And like I said, it's been a big issue in Georgia, and people are upset. And Spalding County is moving to at least count their paper receipts. I'm not going to call them ballots, because the ballots actually It's a ballot marking device that we use here in Georgia. We're one of 2 states. The other state is New York, which I don't want anything in common with New York.
And I was such a fan of Mike Pence until he got in this presidential race and started. This is his statement yesterday after Jackass Smith brought forth more indictments, because it's an interesting thing how when more stuff comes out about Hunter Biden that is absolutely incontrovertible, and the news media says that they're still not proving, there's no silver bullet, they're still not proving the president had any connection with his son. We've got the pictures, we've got the audio, we've got the video, we've got the emails, we've got the letters. Everything points to it. And yet this is what Mike Pence had to say about yesterday, the indictment that he had. Today's indictment serves as an important reminder. Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. That's not what Donald Trump was doing.
Who is this guy? Yeah. He served with President Trump for 4 years.
And singing his praises. I thought he was an excellent vice president.
He was a good balance for Trump, but I have no idea who this person is.
He says, I will have more to say about this government's case after reviewing the indictment. But he said the former president is entitled to the presumption of innocence. But with this indictment, his candidacy means more talk about January 6th and more distractions. They want to make January 6th a national holiday. And yet I want to see when they're going to start the investigations into something like almost 600 riots, mostly peaceful, of course, that destroyed billions of dollars of property, murdered police officers, sometimes murdered civilians, or severely beaten, or sometimes injured, and nothing. And Laura Ingraham recently was doing her show from places that like Kenosha, Wisconsin, and places like that have had all this trouble, and walking the streets showing what's been rebuilt after the riots. Nothing. Mm-hmm. No thing. It's just pathetic. And we heard from these left-wing commentators. Well, it's just a building. It can be rebuilt. Your insurance will pay for it. Oh, baloney! It cannot be rebuilt.
No, and people don't understand that it also makes people uninsurable. It makes insurance go up. So there's a lot of problems with it. I'm going to read some comments, and I want to go into the timeline of how these indictments are working out. Steve Stanton says, I don't recognize Joe Biden's America. Buddy Carter is certainly staying off the radar. You're absolutely right there. Lizzie Warren says, Biden proudly admitted on video he strong-armed Ukraine to remove a prosecutor. I mean, yeah, it's on video, and he was proud of it. We've seen the video so many times. I'm sure we all have it memorized.
And Sean Hannity can't quit talking about it.
Yeah. Well, and Steve Stanton Sr. says Mike Pence is working on his first round ballot into the Rhino Hall of Fame. Like I said, I don't know what happened to Mike Pence. I think we all really liked him because he balanced Trump out in a way that he let's be honest, Trump is a lot. So he does need some balance. And I thought Mike Pence did a great job as a vice president until he didn't.
Yeah, right. But he said our country is more important than one man. Our Constitution is more important than any one man's career. No kidding. He said on January 6th, former President Trump demanded that I choose between him and the Constitution. I chose the Constitution, and I always will. Well, congratulations, because you said America wasn't as much important to you as Ukraine in a recent interview.
Yeah, it's not his concern. Remember that.
Not his concern. Yeah, Ukraine was the biggie. But this is Donald Trump asking a question. And he said, if you want to go by the Constitution, Mike, he pointed out that this election was a fraud. It has been irreversible. It is incontrovertible, the evidence that we have that this election was rigged. From the time that Donald Trump was elected in 2016, there were meetings upon meetings of the Democrats on how to rig the next election.
Well, and you don't even have to go to the voting machines for that.
No.
If you take that off the table, you just look at the censorship that we experienced, the Hunter Biden laptop. Most people wouldn't have voted for Joe Biden if they had known that all of this was out there. It was censored, and they interfered with an election, and they're doing the same thing right now.
Yeah, and that was with the FBI and the CIA and all the others of the deep state. I don't think, when Donald Trump was talking about the deep state, I don't think he realized he went in there a little bit naive. I don't think
yeah.
he realized just how deep the deep state is.
Yeah.
It's right now a bottomless pit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take a lot to get, and that's one of the reasons they made sure that he could not serve a second term.
Absolutely.
Because he would have done a lot more. He would have been a lot more aware.
Well, he didn't have to worry about re-election.
That's right, and had to worry about where the bodies are buried.
So Lizzie Warren says Rhino Hall of Shame. And Joe Pilot's with us this morning, and he said the Democrats know Hunter and Joe are guilty. They don't care because they don't even like the Constitution and want to change it. They resort to violence when they can't get their way. You're absolutely right. And nothing happens to them. The amount of violence we saw at the Capitol versus what we saw in 2020 over the summer, or even during Trump's first inauguration, was much worse than what we saw on January 6th.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's just proof that if you have a D by your name, it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. I do want to go over this timeline of indictments, because I do think it's important that we understand what's going on at the time that, Trump is being charged. So if you look at this, it says, June 7th, FBI releases documents to Congress alleging the Bidens took a $10 million bribe from Burisma. And then the very next day, June 8th, Jack Smith indicts Trump in the Mar-a-Lago documents case. July 26th, Hunter Biden goes to court and rejects sweetheart plea deal. After it was revealed, DOJ tried to give him blanket immunity for the future prosecutions. And then the very next day, Jack Smith adds more charges to Trump in the Mar-a-Lago case. July 31st, Hunter Biden's former business partner testifies to Congress that Joe Biden was on over 20 calls with his son's business partners, and that the Burisma executives pressured them to fire the prosecutor. The very next day, Jack Smith indicts Trump again for January 6th. I mean, and the charges are just ridiculous.
Yeah, just a coincidence, I'm sure.
Yes. So, a lot of coincidences.
Sure are.
So, I'm pretty frustrated with the fact that people need to wake up. I don't know what it's going to take in this country, but we're headed down a path that we're not going to be able to get back from.
And we're going to have to turn this around fast, and it's got to be done by starting with this year's elections. Right here in the city of Savannah, you're going to be electing a new mayor. You're going to be re-electing Van Johnson. But there are a lot of people running for city council that you ought to take a look at. And you need to get to the polls and vote.
And there may only be 2 or 3 seats that end up being viable, that we can change something in. But I will say electing a bunch of Democrats hasn't worked in our favor. We had the Board of Commissions. We had the Board of County Commissioners. We had the Savannah City. And we also had, and then we had the school board all keep their millage rate, which also means that you're still paying more taxes. They didn't roll it back, and we're in an inflationary period where people are struggling. The prices in Savannah have skyrocketed, and it's really hurting people that live at the lowest poverty line. And they don't care. They don't care. They want all that money. They are not balancing a budget. They are not saying, hey, we may have to hold off on projects. They're continuing to put money into these projects. There's overages. There's a lot of things that I have questions on with these budgets. I don't know that they're spending the money responsibly, and I'd like to know where that money's going.
Good question, and we'll discuss that and more when we come back here at Get Real America. So stay real. We'll be right back.
Are you a mom or dad? Do you have little kids with big dreams? Well, hopefully your kids aren't white or Asian, because if they are, they will have a very hard time getting into their dream college or landing their dream job. Top schools and corporations are run by left-wing Democrats, and they openly discriminate against whites and Asians. So even if your daughter has the best test scores, even if your son has amazing grades, even if they spend extra hours studying and doing everything right, it won't be enough. Unless you suddenly discover that you're part Cherokee, or transgender, or in the country illegally. Otherwise, your kids are out of luck. Which begs the question, if Democrats are hurting your children, why would you ever vote for them? Stop the bigotry. Stop the insanity. Paid for by Citizens for Sanity.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke.
When I grow up,
I want to be hired based on what I look like rather than my skills.
I want to be judged by my political beliefs. I want to get promoted based on my chromosomes. When I grow up, I want to be offended by my coworkers and walk around the office on eggshells and have my words policed by HR. Words like grandfather, peanut gallery, long time no see, no can do. When I grow up, I want to be obsessed with emotional safety and do workplace sensitivity training all day long. When I grow up, I want to climb the corporate ladder.
Just by following the crowd.
I want to be a conformist. I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board in America, redballoon.work.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934 with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And glad to have you aboard on this Wednesday morning. Once again, we are just appalled at all of the indictments that are going on against Donald Trump and what we're seeing. And when I think they have one sane person that they've hired at CNN because just for diversity purposes.
Oh yeah,
and he called this. He said, "This with all this, it seems like is reminiscent of Nazi Germany." And Jake Tapper had a cow.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
Really quick, Lizzie asked, when is the deadline to file for office for city council? So qualifying is August 21st through the 24th from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then, of course, Friday, August 25th, 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. So the last day would be Friday at 4:30 p.m. is the deadline.
Lizzie'd be a good one.
Yeah. And just so you know, there is a lot of paperwork when it comes to filing for these. I saw the paperwork and it was like, oh my gosh. So, and it's at the clerk of council's office at City Hall, which is different because it's a city election and not like a county or state election. So that's where you would file, is with the city at the city council's office on 2 East Bay Street. So if you're a good candidate for that, please go. We need more candidates.
And when you see what's going on, Brittany, these people seem to have such a myopic viewpoint. They don't realize the pendulum swings both ways. And remember when they decided in the Senate that they needed the super majority.
Yeah.
They had to have 60 votes in order to do something. And what was it? What was that cretin from Nevada's name that was the speaker, the Senate Majority Leader at the time, Harry Staff? Okay, fine. But he was the one who put that in and said, "This is going to come back to bite you in the butt." And sure enough, it did.
It has. Well, and Joe Pilot says, fair tax system in Georgia, make these cities budget. Take the power to tax away from the local government. I think we should keep everything local. I do think that when you have Atlanta deciding things, I think that that's bad for the county. But I do think we need better candidates that are fiscally responsible and understand how to budget. And that was Harry Reid. Thank you so much, Steve Statton. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Harry. Appreciate it, Steve.
Yes. So Lizzie Warren also mentioned that there is so much waste in every single department. You're absolutely right. We could probably live with like 5 to 10% of our taxes being taken if they just spent the money wisely.
Yeah, and we have, and even Sean Hannity and others have advocated the 2-cent reduction plan. You just cut 2 cents out of each dollar that's spent, and within 5 years you balance the budget. And we're not.
That would be too easy.
Yeah, I remember when they were talking about the current fiscal budget, which we don't have, but they just pretend like there is one. But they said, oh, well, this reduces so much spending since the 2022 budget. When is it? 2023, 2020? Oh, that last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to make that much of a difference.
Yeah.
In 3 months.
Well, not only that, you can't compare the budget of 2020 to everything else. Like 2020 needs to be thrown out. That was a crazy year. We shouldn't have spent the money.
Oh, good God, no.
And I mean, I think that has further destroyed the country because we have people that don't want to work or go back to work. So we're seeing a lot of shortages. And
on Messed Up DNC, they had another doctor on who suggested that we start wearing masks again. And we've already proven that the masks were worthless. The virus is smaller than the fibers in the mask. So wearing a mask was just nothing. And it ruined our kids.
Well, and I think they're using it as a tactic to really start scaring people now. So whatever they have planned for 2024, they can roll out.
Indeed.
So, but I will say there is hope. And I do think that Vivek Ramaswamy has come out of nowhere. He has turned into such a good political opponent.
Yeah.
I do think he's doing the right thing. I wish that other people would step up, especially the governor of Florida. Don't know where his head's at, but he is not winning people over, and it's going to destroy any chance he has as a political career moving forward. I don't think that he has a chance since he has made some really bad decisions, and he hasn't come out strongly in support of making sure that the DOJ isn't weaponizing things against a political opponent.
Exactly.
But Vivek came out yesterday, and I respect him a lot. I know people are like, be wary of Vivek Ramaswamy. He's, they're very wary of the fact that he's come out of nowhere and that he could be have some ties to Soros, which he has defended. Well, he has defended. We played that on our show last week. So one of the things, I respect him for is that he speaks plainly. And every time something happens, I don't think he talks to a PR person. I think he just does what he wants.
Yeah. So, exactly. It's exactly what we need.
Yep.
And we need the other candidates to start standing up like he is against this, because like we said, it comes back to bite you in the butt at some point.
It's another sad moment in our country's history. The 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, has yet again been indicted by the Biden DOJ, a political party in power that is now repeatedly using police force to indict and arrest and potentially eliminate its political opponents from competition. This is a politicized prosecution. It is a political persecution through prosecution, now in a third indictment just in a matter of months, against the person who is still at present the lead contender in the Republican primary for U.S. president. I want to be very clear. I am running for U.S. president in that same Republican primary. It would be easier for me if Donald Trump were eliminated from competition. That's not how I want to win. This is not about politics to me. This is about first principles. We do not want to become a country where the party in power is able to use banana republic-like tactics to eliminate its political opponents. Yet I'm sad to say that's exactly where we are. The allegations in this indictment fall flat. It is wrong and incorrect and inaccurate to place blame for what happened on January 6th at the feet of Donald Trump. I said this at the time. I've said it ever since then. I continue to say it today. I would not have made the same judgments that Donald Trump did in how he handled that day. But that's different from saying that he committed a crime. He did not. He specifically told the protesters that day to behave peacefully. The First Amendment in this country gives political protesters the ability to express themselves and their opinions freely. Donald Trump was not responsible for what happened on January 6th. You want to know what was responsible? I said this in the days after January 6, 2021, just as I say it today. Systematic, pervasive censorship in this country. That was after a year where we had told people across this nation that you had to stay locked down in your house, in your basement, and shut up, sit down, do as you're told. If you question that, you're racist, you're anti-science, your social media accounts were silenced. You had to stay home and lock down unless you were part of BLM or Antifa, in which case it was perfectly fine to roam the streets of this country and burn many of them down. That was the double standard that then applied and said that if you said the virus originated in a lab in Wuhan, you were again a racist and had your internet accounts shut down. You were then told you had an election where you could express yourself to put the right person in charge of fixing these problems, and instead, your accounts were suppressed if you sent a mere message saying that the Hunter Biden laptop story from the New York Post was real. You had your accounts locked. Even the New York Post had its own account locked. And if you repeatedly then tell people they cannot speak, that is when they scream. If you repeatedly tell people they cannot scream, that is when they tear things down. And I think we are making a grave mistake in this country by trying to pin the blame for that at the feet of one man. If we refuse to learn our mistakes from our mistakes in the past, we are doomed to suffer an even worse fate in the future. I worry that will create a country where January 6, 2021 was a friendly parley compared to what's actually to come. I'm running for president to make sure we don't march towards some kind of national divorce. But the first and most important step that we as candidates can take in this race is to speak and speak forcefully on the side of principle, to say that even if we're competing against Donald Trump, as I am, I do not want to see him eliminated from competition using these politicized tactics. It is wrong for our country. It is wrong for our future. I call on my fellow candidates to condemn it, and I call on President Biden to do the right thing and drop these politicized charges. That's going to be a first step towards uniting our country.
You know,
what he says goes for me double.
Yeah, I think that he does believe in principles, and I think that that's the thing that I really like about Vivek, and the fact that he is speaking directly to the people. I don't think he has a PR team that tells him what he can and can't say, because I think that most people, if they were advising him, would say, "Don't say this. Don't say this. It's unpopular. Don't say it." You want him taken out of office, you know.
Well, it's like when Ronald Reagan was told, when he said, you know, this famous line, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall."
They took it out of his speech.
They took it out of his speech three times. And his speechwriters told him not to say it, and the State Department told him not to say it. I thought the State Department is a joke. Mm-hmm. It does a better job representing the rest of the world than it does us. What a pathetic organization that is. And he didn't take that advice. And the place went berserk when he said it, and within months, the wall started coming down. I've been to Berlin. I've seen what's left of the wall that they left up in places. You've seen they sell little pieces of it, and it is it's frightening. And they tore down that wall.
Well, and it's one of the most iconic things that he ever said.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of the most played things that he ever said, and he had great one-liners.
Boy, he just had great speeches from the time he started going into politics. Back in the early 60s. Mm-hmm. And it was, go back and look at his speeches, and you could take out some of the names from them and put in the new names today, and it was like he made that speech last week. And he was a good writer and actor, and he wrote most of his speeches. He did. I mean, like every other president, you have, because you have to make so many, and you do have people that make your speeches, but they go over all of these remarks and say, "I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to say that. Let's rephrase this, or whatever." But it was his sentiment, and it worked. I don't know why. And going back to the late great Rush Limbaugh, he used to ask this question: when you learn that 2 times 2 is 4. Why do you need to keep learning that again? What do you need to take a course? Like somebody said, the sun rises in the east. Why is that? I said, well, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on that course.
No. And before we toss to break, we have some comments here. We had a hard enough time electing a Catholic as president, only been 2. I like him, but the Hindu thing will matter. I don't know, Steve. I think American people are sick of what's going on, and I think it's refreshing to hear someone that speaks.
I don't care
plainly.
what his religion is.
Yeah, at least he believes in something, right?
Yeah.
Joe Pilot says, I do agree that getting better candidates locally is the answer, but in reality, the country is split and these local councils are filled with Democrats, tax pro lunatics. The only way to get it under control is on a state level. And, I respect your opinion, Joe, but at the end of the day, I do think that it's all about your team.
Mm-hmm.
Are Republicans going to show up or are Democrats going to show up? Because turnout is all that matters. Mm-hmm. And if Republicans don't get their butts off the couch and go vote, yes, we will never change this. But in local elections, the numbers are there. Republicans can take back seats, but we also have to find great candidates. And that's really hard to do.
Yeah. And when we get back, I want to talk to you, but I want to continue that with Jesse Kelly's book, The Anti-Communist Manifesto. That's coming up next. Stick around. Stay real.
Who is a kid? Well, that's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
Have you ever boarded a plane and thought to yourself, I hope the pilot is a transgender refugee? Have you ever gone to the emergency room and said, I hope my medical team is incredibly diverse? Have you ever moved to a new city and said, I hope the police department hit its equity goals for the year? If your answer to these questions was no, if you just wanted the most qualified candidates for the job, then you are normal. But we have a lot of very not normal people running America these days. Left-wing politicians believe skin color or gender identity should determine who gets the job. Democrats used to care about the middle class. Now they just care about your race and your gender. And as long as Democrats stay in power, it will just keep getting worse. Stop the bigotry. Stop the insanity. Paid for by Citizens for Sanity.
Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a ride. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Actually, we didn't go away. Yeah.
Yeah, we're here.
All right. You had a couple of other comments. We want to go to a couple of the comments.
Yeah. So Mary McCann Hybrider said these charges are an attack on our First Amendment.
Yep.
And then Steve Stanton says every Republican ought to stand up just like Vivek, 100%. And then Lizzie Warren says, I think this is get out the vote, and older people are really confused by slick Democrat ads. I know more than a few that believe that we're not. I was a victim ads. So
the guy tried to run over his wife?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but he was the victim.
Yeah.
Remember
that's right.
that.
Yeah, that's right.
This is the problem with Republicans. Our messaging is crap. I mean, let's be honest. We don't have a good ad strategy. And, part of that is because we refuse to change leadership in the RNC. I'm super upset with the Republican Party and the fact that Ronna McDaniel is still there. She's still doing her same old games. She's not doing anything she said she would do, which is typical. That's the whole problem. You have got to start stuff at a local level and change things, because we also are electing new chair representatives for the Republican Party in 2024. And I will say Ginger Howard did vote for Harmeet Dillon because I think she had a lot of phone calls and a lot of people pressuring her. But in other states, they had people that voted for Ronna McDaniel because Ronna McDaniel did them a favor or gave them an important job on a committee or something. Mm-hmm. And they couldn't vote her out because they were friends. I don't send you up there to be her friend. Like, I'm sorry, you represent the Republican Party, not your friendship circle.
Yeah, that's the whole problem. I mean, you keep doing the same thing over and over. What's the definition of insanity? Expecting different results.
Well, what have we seen from the Republicans for 2024? We're literally a year and a half out. What are we doing?
Yeah, because last week when they had these hearings in which the news media decided they weren't going, once again, the power to ignore. ABC is the number one network newscast right now. And they did not even mention these hearings of these people who had the trans surgery and have regretted it ever since. The one young lady was up there testifying, said, "I will never be able to have children," and she wants to have kids, and she said, "I will never have that experience." And Jerry Nadler, the nattering Nabob, a man who would need 3 promotions to be pond scum. Was up there just saying how terrible it was that these people were bringing discrimination against the transgender community. It's just, I mean, when they were having these people who were crying in front of them about how this trans surgery that is irreversible has ruined their lives, how they're having to be on medications and everything else, are in pain 24/7, and nothing can stop it and nothing can help it. And here with the Democrats were sitting there with these sour looks on their face, saying that these people were bad for coming forward with nonsense like this.
Well, and there's another report out from Maine Health, which is one of the largest health systems in Maine, and it's a hospital insider warns trans kids on hormones are frequently going to the ER. For harming themselves in a cry for help. We're doing so much damage to these kids because they need support. They don't need us to say, you know what, you're actually a little girl, but you're a boy, but you've been lied to your whole life. You need to take these hormones. it's not healthy. It's creating more suicidal tendency within our kids. It's not normal. And we need to quit normalizing this stuff and thinking that, well, we can't go too far or else people are going to be upset. I'm sorry. I'm kind of sick of the Republicans.
To the gentleman who wrote in and said, we need to start this at the state level. No, you don't. We need to start at the grassroots level, right here. And I'll give you an example. Jesse Kelly, who does a national talk show, and he is, you can hear on WOR every night out of New York, and you can just Google that and put it down on your on a listening app. But he has a book out that's a bestseller, fortunately, called The Anti-Communist Manifesto. And he opens up in the first couple of paragraphs saying, you're out on you wonder how you're out on a little hiking trip like in the Appalachians or something, and you see this big boulder of what it used to be. It's all broken apart and crumbled, and you say, how can this great, big, powerful rock crack up like that? Without somebody hitting it continually with a sledgehammer. How did this thing crumble up and become little pebbles over the centuries? And the answer is water. Water. Water falls on the rock, goes in a few little crevices here. It freezes. Rock cracks a little bit. More water comes along, freezes, cracks a little bit. He said, that's communism. That's what these people have done. It's incrementalism for them. Mm-hmm. They run for the school board, innocuous. They become dog catcher. They run for another local board, board of elections, and so on and so forth until it bills. Mm-hmm. And that's communism. Water. Very into their slogan has always been, or their motto was 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And eventually it happens. We didn't get here overnight. We won't get out of this overnight, unfortunately. This is what bothers me sometimes with the Republican or somebody that wants to come in and they get in office and they start introducing all this wild legislation that has no chance, that's legitimate. It's going to work, but it has no chance of passing. You have to do it a little bit at a time.
Well, I also think that there needs to be some changes, I think, too, because I do think that Republicans, anyone that's in office, they get very comfortable and, they get beat up. So they get to a point where they don't want to fight anymore. They're like, mm-hmm. We can get some things done, but, that's really kind of radical. We're not going to be able to get the Democrats to agree. Okay, you have a majority. Let's just go with that. And they're worried about losing seats. So they talk about political capital and things like that. But at the end of the day, I do think that we need to do a better job of messaging. The Republicans had some great wins this year. We don't talk about that. The media doesn't talk about that.
You lose seats, Brittany, by not doing what you said you were going to do. They said, well, and I don't know why they turn to the Democrats and say, well, what should we do in this situation?
Right. Well, and we have a couple comments here. Joe Pilot says, anyone that thinks it's okay to cut up a child should be put in a mental institution. I agree with you. Yes. Steve Stanton says it all starts at home. And Joe Pilot says, when you fight at a local level, they tell you if you don't like it, fight it on the state level. When you address it on the state level, they tell you to fight it locally. One big circle jerk. Yep, I will say that's the thing. We have to take control of things as people. They work for the people. And I will tell you, the mindset that I hear from a lot of other Republicans is, well, we don't have the ability to speak at a public meeting. I'm like, the heck we don't.
Yeah.
They work for us. And I mean, supposedly there's a rule in Georgia that it's open to the public, but it doesn't mean that the public gets to speak. But if they allow the public to speak, they have to let everyone speak. They can't pick and choose who gets to speak at these meetings. So we do have a long way to go, but also we haven't been involved. I do blame the people for getting comfortable.
Yeah. And that's the problem, that you're going to be called down or something. Well, you're going to be called down anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
By all means, get out there and do something. And the entire of the Republicans saying we didn't have the Congress, so we gave them the Congress. Well, we don't have the Senate, well, we gave them the Senate. Well, we don't have the presidency, we gave them the presidency. They had all three and did not get rid of Obamacare when they campaigned on it for 3 cycles.
So what does that do? It disenfranchises voters, and it makes us so we don't believe you. So, but that's going to do it for us today.
Believe it, we'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, we will be back tomorrow. Remember to download our app, The Local Spin. Coming up in 2 weeks, there is a gun show here. Bill and I will be there with The Local Spin, so come out and see us. And have a great day.
Yeah, see you then.